वेलकम बैक टू माय चैनल। आज हम पढ़ेंगे एक्टिव और पैसिव, द पाथ ऑफ इफेक्टिव राइटिंग, अंडरस्टैंडिंग एक्टिव एंड पैसिव वॉइस। Verbs and voice. Voice is the form or verb takes to indicate whether the subject of the verb performs or receives the action. There are two types of voice, active voice and passive voice. Active voice. Active voice indicates that the subject of the verb is acting because the subject does or acts upon the verb. In such sentences, the sentences are said to be in the active voice. Active voice. This example shows that the subject is doing the verb's action. The dog jumped onto the boy. The dog subject is doing the jumping verb. Christy will give a book report to the class. Christy subject is doing the giving verb. The computer ate my paper. The computer subject is doing the eating verb. Passive voice. In the passive voice sentence, the subject or object flip-flop. The subject becomes the passive recipient of the subject because the subject is being acted upon or is passive. Such sentences are said to be in the passive voice. Passive voice. This example shows that the subject being acted upon the verb. The boy was jumped on by the dog. Boy subject was being jumped on verb. A book report will give by Christy to the class. The report subject will be given verb. My paper was eaten by the computer. My paper subject was being eaten verb. Reasons to use the active voice. Most writers prefer to use active voice because it is more direct. Compare active and passive voice. Active. The waiter dropped the tray of food. Passive. The tray of food was dropped by the waiter. This is some slight difference between active and passive voice. Reasons to use the active voice. The active voice is less awkward and clearly states relationship between subject and action. Compare. Passive. Your request for funding has been denied by the review committee. Active. The review committee denied your request for funding. The active voice sentence pattern propels the reader forward through your writing, thus avoiding weak prose. When to use a passive voice? In general, the passive voice is less direct, less forceful, and less concise than the active voice. Use the passive voice in the following situations. First, use passive voice when you do not know or do not want to reveal the performer of an action. Use passive voice when you want to emphasize the receiver of an action. Examples: awkward passive, deliberate passive. My bicycle was repainted by John. Deliberate. My bicycle was repainted. The perform is not mentioned and the emphasis is on the bicycle. Forms of passive voice. Verbs. The passive voice requires a double verb and will always consist of a form of the verb to be in the past participle. Usually the en, ed, t form of another verb. Example: active. John baked the bread. Passive. The bread was baked by the John. Was, is a form of the verb be. Form of passive voice. Again, voice verbs. Writers should be familiar with the forms of to be, often called linking verbs, so that they can easily identify the passive voice in their work. Review the forms of to be: am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been. Forms of passive voice verbs. Note the forms of to be in the examples of the verb to kick in various forms of the passive voice. Is kicked, had been kicked, was kicked, is going to be kicked, is being kicked, will be kicked, has been kicked, can be kicked, was being kicked, should be kicked. Form of passive voice verbs. Often, passive voice sentence will contain a by phrase indicating who or what performed the action. Passive sentences can be easily transformed into the active sentences when the object of the preposition by is moved to the subject position in the sentence. Forms of passive voice verbs. Examples. Passive. The cookies were eaten by the children. Act. The children ate the cookies. Passive voice, active voice. The tunnels are dug by the gophers. Active. The gophers dug the tunnels. Let's practice. Directions. Change the sentences below to the active voice. The statue is being visited by hundreds of tourists every year. My book was stolen by someone yesterday. These books had been left in the classroom by a careless student. Coffee is raised in many parts of Hawaii by plantation workers. The house had been broken into the someone while the owners were on vacation. Directions. Change the sentences below to the passive voice. The children cannot open these bottles easily. The government built a road right outside her front door. Mr. Rose broke the antique vase as he walked through the store. When she arrived, the changes amazed her. The construction workers are making street repairs all month long. I know you are thinking about what if me. I will tell you. You can write in your notebook first. I, me, you, they, them, he, him, she, her, it. Thank you.